this version that I made is inspired by Marika Shet, Red Riding Hood, and is not the result is not as good as I wanted it to be, and I still have a lot of questions as for the tale on itself. But I like the work overall.
All right, welcome to the stream. This is an untitled show that we're going to talk about artisans. We've got Arca of the Blood Coven and Norse Arts here to discuss their art. We're going to talk about the importance of artisans in the folk and manifesting the folk soul physically and the importance of that sort of thing. So let's have them introduce themselves, and I've got Celtic God as a co-host. So Norse Arts, how about you start us off?
Okay, hail to the folk. Norse Arts LLC in the United States and Norse Arts Proprietorship in Canada. Those are the two businesses we deal our art from, and we carve and produce traditional styles of Scandinavian and Celtic art, and we put a twist on them with a bit of a modern flair in our own distinct style.
All right, awesome. All right, Arca, you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Arnau, which is very hard to pronounce, so just call me Arca, and I'm an art student who lately became very interested in learning my own roots and basically trying to find the origin of pretty much everything that I can grasp. So yes, I'm just studying right now, so I don't have any business thing going on, but I'm open to any kind of project.
We'll go through some of their art in a little bit here. Do you guys want to talk about kind of your process, how you get started on your art, and then we'll sort of go down some of the art that we have to sort of show off and discuss?
Sure. If you want, Norse, if you want to start.
Okay, sounds good. The process. So basically, as you embark on a journey, finding yourself, your folk soul, reading the Eddas, Volsunga sagas, you kind of open up a path of mystery, an esoteric path, which I find. There's not really a process that I work by. So as I take in the data and the information into my mind, I sort of open up and put something on autopilot. I don't know what it is. I just grab my raw materials and I start creating. There's not really a game plan. It's almost like the folk soul or the spiritual force is working through my hands to produce these creations. There's no sketches, no drawings. It's just kind of get up and go and do it.
Well, I have to agree with you. I think that's, it basically comes from somewhere. Maybe we do not know exactly where, but it's definitely something that you do naturally, and there's no kind of how to express myself. It's not something that you ask for. It's something that you naturally do. So I definitely agree with that. And in my case, say.
Yeah, it's almost like a gift, and you have to use your gift to the best of your abilities to honor our ancestors and do them proud and do them right. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. It's just autopilot. It's a force that controls your psyche and your physical being, and whatever the end result is a major connection to your ancestral line.
Definitely, I completely agree. In my case, when I started as a youngster, basically I started to draw. Oh, by the way, can you hear a dog barking?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm outside and there's this dog just well, I hope
Sorry.
it's not I hope it's not a nuisance, but as I was saying, when I was young, I got and I got in my teens, I declined. You know, when I was a child, I was already heading to this kind of art that represented the freedom. And for some reason, when I got into my teens, it went down. I became depressed and I started to do very dark stuff and completely nihilistic philosophy behind my art and my way of thinking. And eventually, I reached a point in which I came back to my childhood. I came back to the roots, and right now I'm working on this plane, but it has always been there. You know, it has always been deep inside, and I'm glad that I can finally, start taking it seriously.
So would you say that uh, after investigating paganism, I guess, um, that lent you purpose to your life, and that comes out in your art?
Yes, I think that. Well, it's basically a philosophical path. Like you on throughout your life, you go through different ways of thinking, and but deep down, you always have one way. Like there's always that primordial truth, I guess you could say. And it's just good to know that even though sometimes life makes you go different ways, you always have that route to go back. And it's amazing that no matter how far you go, you can always like go back and learn from your past and from your origins.
Yeah, exactly. And Arca, you're pretty inspired by like older style fairy tales as well, the sort of art and that sort of thing.
Yes, indeed. And it's actually recently that I've been and partly thanks to you guys that I've been seeing amazing artists of old school fairy tale artists. And but before that, when I was a child, I was already obsessed with fairy tales and myths and fantasy, and so it's always been there.
I got a question for Norse Arts. Um, I know that you do carving, but what else do you do, or is it just wood carving?
Well, I do mix mediums. So I do oil painting, acrylic, tempera. I'm a welder by trade, so I do steel sculpture. It's just right now the situation I'm in for my gallery and so on. Everything's out in the hot sun, just baking, and I don't have a studio where I can actually produce my higher end pieces. Right now, I have a 25-foot totem that's sort of sitting under tarps, trying not to check in the sun. But mixed medium, you give me a bottle of ketchup and mustard and a piece of canvas, and I'll produce something folkish on it. Definitely. My mind is going 24/7 with ideas. My filing cabinet upstairs is full of blueprints, and it's just a matter of getting those ideas out onto the medium and produced for the public or private collections.
So it sounds
That's really
like
cool.
Yeah,
kind of
and
fun that I say all the time, where real pagans don't whine about what they don't have; they use what they do have and make the best of it.
That's right. Whether we're out in the bush collecting bones or various types of natural materials to incorporate into our art, you see that special piece out in nature, and you'll pick it up, and you know what it's for, but you don't know what it's for. Right? It's not like hoarding. Something will speak to you as you're out in nature. You grab that and you turn that into your medium. and then you present it as the story or the piece of art.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to show this real quick. This is a video from
Wow.
Norse Arts, where I hope you don't mind that I'm showing this real quick. But
That's fine. Throw that ugly mug up there.
yeah, this is really early on. This was like a year ago or so. I think you posted this when you were working on the Odin totem. So it's just this. This is the Odin totem, right? The really large one.
Yes.
So
This
here,
looks amazing already.
yeah, just kind of wanted to show what you were talking about with the more expansive pieces, like
Yeah, logistically,
That is just
it's hard. Logistically, it's hard to deal with this. You're looking at, roughly a 2,000-pound piece of spruce there, and just rolling it and trying not to damage the relief carving on it is a feat in itself. And then having a place to store it, because if you're in a situation where you can't keep working on the piece, it's something to be dealt with for sure.
Wow, I imagine it has to be a big, not mess, but a bit complicated to deal with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Go ahead, Antler.
go ahead. Sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say I was gonna show this from your gallery. I think this is the same piece, just a lot more finished. You guys keep talking. I'm just
This is
trying to
really,
get visual representation.
really, really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so this piece here,
like that. I tried to do stuff like that, but it's horrible. I will not lie. I can't do that. If you used to put something I do next to that, mine would definitely get. But that's just beautiful.
thank you so much for the compliments. Humility is a very important aspect in being an artist. I see a lot of artists that are excellent artists that surpass what I can do, or other artists that I know. But the thing that gets in the way with those people is ego. So if they learn how to let ego leave their mindset, they will be producing pieces that have an esoteric connection to the gods and the ancestors, and that's what it's really about.
Yes, exactly. Because very lately I saw a movie which was very Christian, but some of the ideas were actually very appealing to what I think of art. And what I think of art is that it is, it is, as you said before, it's basically a divine gift, and we are the ones that are responsible to make it and share it. And it's not because of I did this. No, no, no. Yes, I did this, but I did this because I was inspired by. There's always some source, and all these sources, they come from the divine. I'm sure of that. To me, there's no doubt about it. So, uh, yes, anyone who says that, well, you're a shitty artist, you're just a beginner, I'm much better, look at what you did, look at what I do, look at my talent, all of that is meaningless. In the end, what's important is that you can send a message with your art.
Yeah, agreed. You were breaking up there a bit, but I got the end of it. Yeah, definitely agree with you 100%. I just want to look at the chat here, and we have a question that says, "Is making art a natural talent to further hone, or can anyone do it with enough training and practice?" Okay, so I'll break that down. Natural talent is a gift, definitely, and that gives people a one-up. When you're educated through an art school or a college or something, you're basically learning the teacher's techniques. So if you're taking Bob Ross, for example, and you're learning to do landscapes, basically, to me, that the skill set is phenomenal, but that's a type of indoctrination. So what a lot of people do is, if they can't expand from what they're taught in school and have their own twist or their own flair on it, they're indoctrinated to their master or their teacher, and they'll be painting in that style. A natural talent is the ability to grasp onto a subject matter and display that in your own way with your own ideas behind it. So that's the two differences in that question.
Yes, definitely. I wouldn't have said it better.
Well, and I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but I would say art can be in just about any medium, whether it's like in my case, I'll grab a spear and start moving, and people equate it to some kind of dance, even though it's not. It is definitely not a dance. Or you have pictures or carvings or poetry, just pretty language, I guess, that can come out actually in just about any way.
Yes, I agree. For example, let's take fight, for instance. Fighting. There are as many styles as individuals are in the world, I think. And I think it's a mistake to say that this is the perfect martial art, for example, right? I've been training for a lot of years, and all I can say for sure is that every individual has a weakness and a strength, and maybe someone is more talented than you in fighting, let's say, but maybe you have a style that another person who is not as talented does not have. So you can exploit your own, I guess, strengths of your own style, of your own way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'm not an especially good drawer. I try to do what I can, but like my avatar here was not made by me. It was made by another artist we work with, who unfortunately was otherwise unable to come in today. But he made this for me, and it was really, really awesome that he was able to do that. It was what I wanted, and it really kind of allowed me to exemplify kind of what I wanted to do with my channel. And it's very, very nice to have artisans and people who are actually making stuff to sort of inspire us, because you look at a lot of the art today, it does the opposite of inspire. It's almost a way of just breaking things down, and that's one of the reasons I really wanted to show you guys off more or less, because your stuff is very inspiring.
Yeah, as Norse
Yeah.
Arts said, it's basically an indoctrination. What you see today in art is not, it's not art that comes from the minds of the people who do art, but rather it's just a copy paste of some kind of indoctrination, like basically like thinking and like philosophy and politics.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna go ahead and go through. Let me see if I can find this again. I'm going to go ahead and show a little bit more of Norse Arts art here. Just I'm in his gallery on his website, which I'll link on the bottom here. But you can see like he has this shield right here with the designs on it.
Really
Uh,
cool.
I think you said this was the stave with the black sun, Sowilo bind rune right here. That's really cool. Yeah, a lot of really, really cool stuff. Do you have like a favorite piece or anything, or something you are especially proud of you'd like to talk about Norse Arts? That
Yeah. Excuse me. Each piece sort of resonates. Oh, I'm getting feedback.
no, I'll mute. See if that.
Okay, so each piece sort of resonates on a different level, as you produce it. I'm not proud of one piece in particular. Each piece tells a different story in the myths of the ancestors, or my interpretation of the myths. And what I do is blend a lot of the zoomorphics, which are the beasts, Jormungand and Sleipnir and Hugin and Munin, and all the various beasts that are very near and dear to our culture and our existence. So not the question, not one piece that I'm proud of, but I'm proud of all of them. And actually, I'm proud of other artists' work too. I can look at various styles of art, and I can tell if it's made by the soul or if it's made by the mind. So there's two completely different aspects when you look at other artists' work.
Yeah, I saw an experiment where they had like a robot reproduce music and art, and people seemed to always be drawn to the version that was done by a human over the robot, even though the robot's version might be more technically perfect. It's almost like the imperfections are what raise it up to that master level.
Yeah, it has to have that soul, that spirit, the folk soul, if you will. It has to present something. It doesn't matter 100% what the actual technical proficiency is. It's what does it matter to you? What does it inspire? Like there could be an absolutely beautifully done painting painted by just a robotic stick, but it'll be lifeless and soulless. Or even just things that are made by people who call themselves artists today, like me and Arca have talked about before, that a lot of modern fairy tale drawings or renditions of fairy tales lack any soul. They lack what made them so special and valuable in the first place.
Yes, they lack the, I don't know how to put it. It's very hard to explain for me. Maybe it's because I'm still a bit young, but I think that you guys have presented the best way that could be presented. As Norse art said, it needs to have a soul behind it. If it doesn't matter. And also, as Celtic God said, a robot can do it better. If you teach a person to draw, um, let's say, I don't know, any canvas, doesn't matter which, any painting that's very famous. If you teach him to do that, and if he does that every day, his painting will be better. It will be better, but it will have no soul. It will be just a copy. And it's very similar as how fantasy is portrayed in most of the mediums that we can find today. It's portrayed in a way that's just recycling old things, and in a worse way. I don't know how to say it. It's really hard to explain for myself, but I don't know. It does lack something. It lacks the purpose,
Like
I
a
guess.
copy of a copy of a copy
Yeah,
that
yeah,
just keeps losing as you copy it more.
exactly.
Yeah, like not to just start rattling about Hollywood, but like Disney, for example, they've done relatively beautiful movies about our fairy tales.
Hmm.
Not for some reason the one time they do like a straight up myth, they completely botch it with Hercules. But let's not get into that. We'll be here all day. But like Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, um, Sleeping Beauty. These are beautiful movies. Like they're very childish compared to the much darker story. But you look at like the remakes, because they've remade Snow White, they've remade Sleeping Beauty, they've remade Cinderella, they've remade Beauty and the Beast in these live actions or these soulless sequels, and there's no heart in them. The heart that made our people love them so much when they first came out, they're just soulless cash grabs now. No matter how pretty the CGI, no matter how good the singer, which for some reason they never bother to get a good singer, it's always auto-tuned. But basically, it's a clear difference between someone who made these movies and cared and someone who made these movies and just made a cash.
Yeah, agreed. My favorite movies would be Brave and Frozen, just because of the geographic area in which they present those lore. You know, with the the parent turning into the bear in Brave, and that resonates with me due to the mythos and the ability of our gods to shapeshift. So that one was a real good one for me to enjoy with my daughter.
Hmm. I can definitely see why. And namely, I don't know, like I'm not a big fan of Disney because mainly because of this singing, but I can appreciate I can appreciate the art behind it definitely, and especially with the animation. Like if you look at old school animation, that was art. It was like they completely managed to get inside the character, for example, of Snow White, and move it as if it was real. And that's something that you don't see today in animation at all.
Yeah, exactly. You look at the old Sleeping Beauty films, they literally painted the background. Like, that's a
Yes,
painting.
yes, yes.
And you look at it today, and no matter how technically proficient it is, it's just not as pretty because it lacks soul or it lacks spirit.
And
It's
the rhythm, the fluidity of time, it's so beautifully done that you know it really is admirable. Simply,
That's actually one of my biggest fears as technology develops and we move into virtual worlds and virtual reality and digital illustrations. Uh, I ask the gods that I don't get left behind in a trail of dust because there's no demand for a physical piece of art because technology has wrapped up individuals in this virtual world, and you see that happening all over the place. I just ask the gods that I stay steadfast, and there's a renaissance and a revival for artists who produce physical pieces, who want prints, who want that actual piece for their garden or their home or that god pole for their altar. I just ask that it stays strong and we carry on with this renaissance. And if people are using this as a trend and hopping on board, soon they'll hop off the train and the true folk will remain.
definitely. That's the case also for music. Lately I started to buy music, and it's something that I didn't do before. I only buy music to those that do not have much money or much fame, I guess. And it's such a rewarding thing to do because you make a direct connection to the artist who's selling that, because you both know that this is the way to go. Like if you picture yourself in a village, in a tribe, this is how things went. You needed that connection, and we are on the way of losing it. But yes, there is a renaissance, and as you said, I hope that it lasts for long and it stays true and not just a trend.
Yeah, and the Renaissance was essentially the return of pagan ideals and artistic work. So it's actually a pretty fitting term for what we're trying to go through. We're going through a cultural renaissance, sort of finishing what the first one started as best we can, really. And I wanted to share this real quick. This was let's see. I wanted to share while I have it up. The There's right here is the art from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to it. It won't let me just open it up somewhere else. But so
Look at
this
that.
is the artwork that Arca's working on for the Snow White tale that we rewrote on one of the projects we're working on, sort of cracking the fairy tales for the gods. And Do you want to talk about the art there, Arca?
That's
Sure.
amazing. That's amazing, man. Just beautiful. The way your eyes drawn in from the foreground into the background. It's just, you've got a real talent, brother. You really do.
Thank you. Wow, that. Thank you. I I don't know how to take. The truth is that the idea came to me very easily, and it was thanks to the writings of the Antlered One and Celtic Frost. Sorry, I mean Celtic God. They both helped me get a better grasp of the story, and since I since I easily understood the origin of the story of Snow White and the way that Celtic God and the Antler One um, managed to trace back the origin of the story, it was easy for me to picture a specific scene, which is this one, in which Frost comes in the morning, which didn't I didn't quite get it here in the illustration, but Frost comes in the morning of late summer and he kisses gently Snow White or Winter, and she revives. As you can see, her body color is uh,
Very pale.
yes, but it's especially pale in the head and in the hand because Frost
Yeah.
has tortured her. So it's basically like Frost is giving birth to Winter again to repeat the cycle. So
Well,
Winter dies. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's no need for explanation on that because anybody who has a mind that can look deeper into the things, you see the trail behind, you see the hand, you see the face, you see the hair on him, and as he, uh, caresses her and gives her the kiss, that is the transformation right there. It's plain to see. You did an excellent job.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's fantastic, Arca.
You made a point right here that I I I should stop trying to explain my drawings because a drawing should always explain all by itself, and that's a point that I sometimes forget about. So
Oh, and that's that inner voice as an artist. That's right. We have to leave it open to interpretation, and
definitely,
it'll resonate to those people in the way it's supposed to.
yeah, yeah, I completely agree. So
Arca,
say
yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, man. Uh, there's a question here in the chat. Maybe you could go on this. It says, have you ever been inspired by a real life experience to create a work of art?
uh, this is a hard question actually because I I never think about this, but well, the truth is that yes, but it always has some degree of fantasy on it. Like I've never drawn anything that's specifically from my life unless it was like a small comic page, or something like that, in which it was more like humor inspired. But the real deal, like the deep feelings and the philosophy and I guess the true experiences that I've had in life are reflected in my drawings of fantasy. Even I've been drawing some very dark stuff 2 years ago, and I'm still proud of those pieces because they really show my disdain for the world, and they really show my hatred and my rage, and also my feeling of loss and melancholy and nostalgia that I feel for the world. So yes, definitely. The quick response is yes, but always metaphysically. It has never been literally.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a. We've had quite a few questions that I haven't had a chance to cover them all. We did have one above about what do what do you guys think of the black sun symbol? And I've got a pretty good another piece from Norse Arts to show here that actually features the black sun. I just really wanted to show it because it's freaking awesome.
It's awesome.
And you got the black sun on the shield for Odin totem,
Yes.
and it's fantastic. But I'll let you guys sort of talk with that in the background about what you think of that symbol, what it means to you.
To me, the symbol represents the rebirth of our culture. Overcoming the indoctrination. And my art is very esoteric. All the symbolism I use is very ancient symbols in many cultures, whether it be, swastikas or certain runes. It's channeling that energy and presenting it on a platform where others can appreciate it, enjoy it. And I noticed when I do have patrons that are looking to buy pieces, when my gallery was up and running, they would come in and they'd almost be overwhelmed by looking at some of the pieces. And what my wife would say to them is, please just pick up the piece, feel it, touch it. And if it resonates with you, then that may be the piece for you. A lot of the times the art chooses the person, not the person choosing the art. So you feel that energy when you pick up another artist's work, or you touch it, you put your hand on it, and that will resonate with you.
That's such a good point. Very, very self-explanatory, the way you said it. And I think that for symbols and ancient, for example, like take for instance, the Celtic patterns, they really have to resonate with yourself, or else it has no connection with you. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of esoteric or symbolism, I'm going to go ahead and share the Red Riding Hood piece that Arca did. That's very interesting, and he'll have to explain it more, but it should be up now. Once there we go. Go ahead and explain it if you'd like.
Yeah. So sorry for the picture quality, which is very bad because that's a screenshot. But I had no other way to share it at the moment. So, but yeah, let's actually. I'm gonna let you guys tell yourself what you think of this. What are your conclusions of this? Because I'm very interested in that.
Celtic God, Norse Arts, what do you think of the piece?
If Celtic God could start with his interpretation, that'd be great.
Well, I myself, when I look at it, I see a level of brutality. Not like in a quote unquote evil way, because I really don't believe in good or evil in the sense that most people do, but just like that raw, natural brutality. Um, and then it's kind of like a mix of victory and sorrow at the same time.
Yes, definitely. It's intended to give this impression of, I guess we could say maybe nature, because nature is sometimes brutal, but it's always fair. It's always okay. Although in this case, I clearly went all exaggerated. Definitely, it's not the most, I guess, realistic idea of the Red Riding Hood. It's just a bit fantasized and maybe exaggerated.
Norse Arts, what do you think?
Well, well, looking at it, I see, you know, which I assume is that Red Riding Hood on the floor. To
Actually, my idea was that both are Red Riding Hood.
Okay, so the physical body on the floor, obviously, the bear and Red Riding Hood are both, physically done, but to me, that is the spirit standing tall there. That to me, the interpretation looks like, the physical form is done. The attempt was made to defend herself, but spiritually, because the bear is defeated, her soul is free and she's victorious. To me, that's what it looks like.
Okay, I think it's a very interesting perspective. Um, my initial idea with the painting was to represent uh, the idea, the how to say it, the ideology of the cycles. Like with winter, there's this cycle of death and rebirth. Winter sleeps, and then winter gets up, and then winter sleeps, and then winter gets up. Um, she sleeps because of the apple. So spring comes, she goes to sleep, and with the Red Riding Hood, it's a similar idea. Just that, as I said when we started the streaming, it's basically inspired in Marie Cachette story interpretation, which is basically that the Red Riding Hood is a tale about rebirth. Uh, when the grandma dies, which is the body on the floor, that's grandma. When she dies, the blood, her own blood, traces back to to the new, I guess you could say, the young Red Riding Hood. And the blood and the shadow has a lot of importance in this painting because it represents the time, the like the passing of time and the importance of blood in rebirth and in basically in breeding. So yeah, that's just one explanation. That's just one thing of the whole
Well,
painting.
uh, not to interrupt, but to interrupt before I lose my train of thought because it's a pretty short train. When I first saw that picture and I was told that as Red Riding Hood, I thought that it was inspired by the version of the Red Riding Hood story that my grandmother told, where that shared, and I thought maybe you'd been aware of that, where pretty much the story's essentially the same right up until the end, and then after the wolf eats Red Riding Hood, the hunter comes in and strikes off the wolf's head. I mean, the bear's head is still on, but he picks up the body and he sees that its belly is full, so he splits the belly and sits down in the house and eats the contents, and that's what I thought that was at first.
Well, as you know, Celtic God, like all of these fairy tales and myths have a lot of in common, and definitely then they can vary here and there, but the ideas are always very similar, I would say. And in this case, like I don't know how to explain it in short. It's very difficult for me to say that, but to explain it. But um, it's basically inspired by Marie Cachette interpretation. So if you do know about it, well, you can have a better grasp, I guess, on the painting. But I don't know, that there are so many things in this painting that I had to do. Like that word, I think it was 3 months, and I got really, really inspired to do that. It was like one of these works that come from the soul, I guess you could say. In difference with other works that are very well done, but not as important.
Yeah, exactly. And those things do tend to mean a lot more and turn out to be a lot more important when you just feel inspired to do them, rather than just going through your daily grind. It feels, I can't 100% relate, but that feeling that it's something you really want to do and feel you must do at the same time, like an almost spiritual need to do something.
Yeah, I felt almost obligated to, I don't know, to do that, because I think the modern interpretations of fairy tales, and some of them, like the Red Riding Hood that my mother taught me, wow, that's completely devoid of any meaningful meaning beyond just, you know, a life lesson that's easily said. Uh, I can say, oh, there's this friend Dave. Dave got out in the boots and he forgot his, I don't know, his map, so he got lost and died. And you can say that's a story. Okay, good, but it's very different when you say, no, no, Dave went to the boots because he was looking for something, for some kind of of truth. And all fairy tales share this deep meaning. Uh, each of them has a different meaning, I'm sure, but all of them has all of them have uh, this kind of importance to them. It's not as simple as just Dave went out in the woods and he got lost. It's much more than that. It's Dave went out in the woods and, he was looking for something and he found it and he died, for example. Just one example. And for Red Riding Hood, it was, again, a lot of things going on. I drew a bear instead of a wolf, and that's because in France, uh, the word otso in Basque language, otso, and os, which is a Catalan version of the same name, means bear, while in French it means wolf. So it's a bit, I don't know. I'm just forgetting things. I'm sorry. I can't explain myself correctly, but I just hope that you get my point, which is that,
Yeah,
say, go ahead.
yeah. Sorry, they're almost like moral lessons
Yes,
that have been passed on down through generations.
yes, and I wish I could like explain all the things that I thought of when I made this drawing, but I can't. It was, it was that moment, and I should like with the writing, I could do a drawing and I could pass it to you guys, and that would be great because it would be more understandable. But I don't know how to express how I came into this conclusion with a painting. But yeah, there's my perspective on this painting.
You're doing fine, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you're explaining yourself well enough.
Yeah, exactly. And anyone who's ever done anything in sort of a state of inspiration, whether it's an action, a painting, a poem, a drawing, asking a girl out or whatever, just something like that. They don't know. It's really hard to explain exactly what was going through your head or how you were thinking. It was like just something you felt you had to do or something you felt led to do. Um, and I wanted to go over because you said you could really only stick around for like an hour, right, Arca?
Yes, more or less. Maybe, 10, 15 minutes, but I have to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I was going to go ahead and show the last piece of art you sent me real quick, so that you can get that started and just sort of we can sort of look at it and think about it and say what we think. One sec.
Sure, sure. Sounds fine. Yep. So for this piece, I think the idea is pretty clear. You know, there's this landscape on the background. Well, because before I start, just mention that this is from a black metal band from Barcelona, and they play atmospheric black metal, which is centered more into the atmospheric idea. You know, the artistic expression of atmospheric black metal is usually linked to landscapes. And in this particular song that I made this cover of, Rejected, my idea instantly was that there's this fight going on between the modern world and the freedom. Uh, you can see that building in the center, and that building is broken, and there's a branch of the tree coming inside. And in the shadow of the protagonist, which is completely depressed in the corner, the shadow is basically trying to reach the branch. He's trying to reach the landscape, the freedom, but his body won't follow. And I don't know what you guys think of this, but to me, this is a very important piece for me because that character right there is very similar to me, to myself, how I felt a year ago when I thought I was alone in all this shit. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, damn, now I'm depressed. Somebody cheer me up.
Guilty God.
Adorable white babies. There. Just picture that.
Yes, always, always.
Yeah, little white pill. When I was at work, this one family had this absolutely adorable little kid, and she was just like jumping up for joy at something as simple as just getting fish for dinner. Like she was like sockeye, 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 because she wanted the salmon. She was just really, really excited. There, did that help at all?
Definitely. So I'm reading the chat right now on mobile because my PC is kind of horrible, so I can't really put YouTube on there. But how do you keep from getting burnt out? Well, it's basically by meeting people which is like-minded. You know, like for instance, when I met these guys, I thought, wow, this is fucking amazing. Like these guys are. I don't know. The feeling is like you're not alone anymore, and it's kind of weird, but that really helps you go through a lot of situations in life, and it gets to a point in which you're not alone anymore. So you want everyone around you to be better, and you can be better because of that. I think that's a good uh, explanation, I guess.
Yeah, and this is an album cover. So is Perennial Isolation the name of the album, or is that the name of the band? I guess.
The name of the band, which I really like because the whole concept of this name is fucking incredible. Like when you think about this name, what do you think of?
Repeated isolation in a cycle.
It's basically, to me, it feels like you are maybe alone, but you are how is it called in English? You're standing there. Like you're not moving from there. Like The perennial isolation means basically that whatever happens, you stay there. You stay strong. It doesn't matter how hard life is on you. You stay strong and you resist the whole winter. So I think that the name only is amazing. Uh, the band on itself is really good as well. Uh, it's not like my favorite band, but it definitely has a lot of interesting concepts of life that can be related to both nihilism and paganism. Uh, the latter is definitely more appealing to me. But yeah, very good concept ideas.
Yeah, and the sort of way I tend to romanticize, I guess if we want to use a term like that, the artisans of the folk is there's a folk soul, and we emanate it through our actions and our being and just our who we are inside. But the ones that manifest it physically are the artisans, the carvers, the architects, the painters, the weavers, etc., all these people that create magnificent aspects. We can, emanate it as best we can through just our actions. But at the same time, it is fantastic to be able to sort of have in our towns or in our homes or whatever we have that we can truly call our own, just a way of representing physically who we are at a spiritual level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed 100%. The main thing that I've found is ancestor veneration. So once you open up the doorway, and it depends how esoteric you want to get, but when you perform blota and you give that sacrifice to the ancestors, they will reward you. You don't ask, you give, and then in return, you will be rewarded on your path, and this path that we're walking in the modern realm in life. Our ancestors fought through starvation, hunger, wars, bloodshed, political instability, in order for us to breathe this air at this point in time on this earth today for a reason. Each of us has a purpose. And like I said, when you have that ancestor veneration, which the West does not teach you, you have to sort of find that yourself. That is the key to open up the gate.
I definitely agree with you. I think that part of this, well, mainly was because of Christianity, that it teaches us that we have to behave in order to be better in a life beyond this one. And modernity has brought us this idea of living your own life and forgetting about everything else. And the truth is that no matter how rich you are, no matter how good you live, if you're alone, you have absolutely nothing. And when you have this philosophical idea that you are not here just by yourself, you're here because there were your parents and your ancestors, and you're here because you have to continue this cycle. You are not alone anymore. You have a responsibility. You have something to do, and that fills you with determination. And as artists, uh, we need to be tools of this divine gift. We are tools, basically.
Yeah, that's right. And you were bringing up music and the bands quite a bit. For me, Iron Maiden, they are poets, they are storytellers. They immerse you. When you listen to their music, they draw your psyche in, and you are reliving those moments in time, like the song The Klansman and so on, or Power Slave, and you look at the struggles of the various people around the world and what they've gone through, and you are reliving those experiences. And that's what we do through music, poetry, art, and so on like that. We are opening the door for these people. We're dangling the carrot for them to take a bite, and whether they eat the whole carrot or not, that's up to them. but we're opening the doorway for them to experience what we are meant to experience on our path.
Completely agree.
Celtic God, you have anything to say? Antlered got booted from the hangout here.
Yes, I don't know. Maybe.
Um,
Oh, there he is.
excellent. He's back.
I think I'm back.
Good.
There you are, sir. Yep.
It accidentally booted me. I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah, exactly. At Dale Chatfield, it is as if the sky opens up. Exactly. We just have to enjoy that rain when it pours down on us. Enjoy the thunder. Enjoy the lightning. Take in that energy, and redirect the energy into something purposeful. For sure.
Definitely. You guys have explained much better than I could, but the idea is very clear to every one of us that is here in the chat or in the streaming. It's basically the idea that we do not belong to ourselves. We belong to ourselves because we belong to something else. We belong to it's almost literally a divine uh, relationship. You're not just you. You are you and everyone else who has brought you here, and you have the responsibility to continue that. And really, that's the best way to live your life. Actually, that's what I think, at least.
Yeah, we belong to the gods. You know, you got all these other religious groups that say this, that, and the other, and they try to take our souls. No matter what incantations they use or anything like that, our souls, our fetch does not belong to them. It belongs to our gods and our ancestors and our bloodlines. So there's nothing to worry about. You have some new age people doing witchcraft, blah blah blah, whatever. They want to throw hexes out. That does not affect us, because the blood is what our gods take from us. This is what they own. This is not our blood, it is theirs. And one more quick point. As an artist, what we have to do is inspire each other, inspire other artists and craftsmen, no matter what level they're at. And we have to be able to
I
allow them
would
to
say inspire
resonate.
the people, period. I would say not only just the artists, but the people, period. To
Yes,
remind us
definitely.
of who we was and are and will be. Ah,
Yes,
Agreed.
we are servants of our people because our people is everything. You know, kin is kin is probably the most important thing that anyone, regardless of where they live, where they were born, the kin is the most important thing ever. And if you forget about your kin, you forget about yourself because you render yourself useless, and so you lose your purpose in life.
Yeah, geographic locations change, borders change, countries rise and fall, but blood is the thing that cannot be changed or given or taken.
Very
Yeah,
good
exactly.
conclusion.
Exactly. It's all about the people. It's all about our people. And whether you're an artist, a warrior, a bard, what have you, that divine inspiration, it's something that aids all of us. It gives us inspiration, or it gives us strength, or it gives us meaning, or it reminds us of what everything that matters: family, folk, history, tradition, everything that makes us, that we've built out of ourselves for thousands and thousands of years, the things that really matter.
the blood of my ancestors is my blood. Their strength is my strength. My strength is your strength.
Yes. To conclude, because I'll have to leave now, but I want to say something that I want to say that, you know, for example, my grandfather, He died this January, and the way I felt, it's so, how do I explain it? I did feel a bit of loss, but I didn't feel sad. I felt I felt so good. I felt good. I felt like this is my chance to continue his legacy. This is my chance to honor him in my life. He has gone. He's not here anymore. But I am here, and I am part of him, and I must honor him.
Yeah,
And that feeling that I had this January is a life changing uh, attitude that I've had in my life. Definitely.
yeah, exactly. He's not gone. This physical vessel is just a means for experience.
Exactly.
He lives on through you and your blood, and your children will live on. So the way I look at life is, I've had 4 beautiful children. So that to me is preservation of myself, and that's me continuing the lineage through my children. So, like the loss of our elders and our ancestors in the physical form is nothing. Yes, there's grief, but through the new blood that is generated, that's preservation of oneself and the gods.
Yes, it's basically we are shells. We're shells that are given this divine gift that is blood and spirit. And this spirit we must maintain. We must we must honor the gods because this is the only way to live an honorable life. There's absolutely no other way to do that because in the end of the day, that's what's important: the family, the friends, the close people, the people that you feel a connection with. So the way to honor them is by trying to be better than them. It's a self. I don't know how to say. Well, you get my point.
Yeah, we understand. What you say resonates definitely.
Yeah, and thank you very much for coming on, Arca. It was a pleasure to be able to talk to you about art and your work and everything. It was awesome. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much. Thank to everyone, and uh, excuse me for my horrible English. Turns out I'm not in the best situation right now to do a streaming, but it's okay. Uh, so thank you very much for joining us, and I'm glad that you invited me, Antler One, and I'm very glad to have met Norse Arts. It was a pleasure, man.
No, the honor is mine. Thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing, and you're a very talented man. Just 100% dig in, and I'm sure you do. And the gifts will come to you in life.
Thank you. Oh, great. So goodbye, everyone.
Hail to
Bye,
you.
Arca.
Bye, Arca.
Hails.
Have a great day, man, and good luck.
But
I got a
yeah, in
smile on
general,
your
I'd say that the duty of the artist is to inspire and awaken who we actually are deep down inside, not who most of us think we are, but that core, that seed, that kernel that's way down deep inside.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked
That
about
was all. That's all I got.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, the sort of inspirational and spiritual sort of groups of our people. They in the past we have lost our link for the most part to the druids, to the shamans, to the wizards. However much people tend to have a fantastical vision of what those functions would have been, but we had those people as leadership roles, and it'll take generations to rebuild them. but the artisans, the bards, the people, we never stopped making music. We never stopped singing songs of our soul. We never stopped creating art. They may have been co-opted by other peoples and other groups, but we've never stopped creating fantastical art. We've never stopped creating wonderful music. They may present rather terrible art and rather terrible music. If I can say my own opinion on what seems to be put out these days for the grand masses, but you can find it. We still create magnificent art, magnificent music. Like we have bards on in our group, and we have artisans as well, and they are the foundation for rebuilding that aspect of our people, because it's going to take generations to bring back the other groups of refinding information, building upon it. But the bards and the artisans, they can truly show who we are and manifest it and help us remember the way. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to do this stream. Was I think it's incredibly important that people like Arca and Norse Arts, that what they do, they are not only reminding us, they are laying the path for much of what comes after in terms of a spiritual and a cultural approach. And thank you to both of you. I know Arca's already left, but thank you, Norse Arts.
Well, to get all dramatic, get all to get
Garbled up pretty bad.
dramatic. We're in a war of the mind and the dramatic. We're in a war of the mind and the spirit, and our art.
Yeah.
Okay. Who starts?
Yeah, you're garbling up pretty bad, but the heart leading the charge, yeah, that was about all I could hear at that moment. But yeah, and you can even look to the folk art that we've still made and find examples of things that still matter to us. Like you can find our sacred symbols or aspects in, say, hex signs. They have a tree of life symbol in the Pennsylvania Dutch folk art that is basically a vestigial memory of Yggdrasil, Irminsul, tree of life, whatever you wish to call it.
Well, it's even on a subconscious level, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It leaks through, even when our people don't mean to do it. It still leaks through.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can look at music that our people make or movies, and if it's made with actual art,
being who we've always been, it's been co-opted. It's been steered away. We had blinders put on.
yeah, exactly. And
the bar.
yeah, exactly. Norse Arts, you have any other thoughts you'd like to get across there?
Yeah, just one quick thing here before you end the show. The indoctrination that has been put on us through generations to cover up what we are truly all about. You look at the stave churches all through Europe and into Scandinavia and all that. And the stories and the lore are carved into those because it was taboo to talk about and taboo to have the veneration and the worship that we need for our ancestors and gods. It's always been there. It always will be. What people have to do is not worry about guilt, shame, and blame and the indoctrination from the major religious groups and the political groups around the world. Don't look out there for the answers. Look within. And once you feel that spark, it will burst into flames, and then there is no stopping you.
Very well said. Very well said.
Right.
And
Yeah. Well, and as an example of what you're talking about, I don't know if it's on the stave churches or not, but me and the antlered one was discussing the green man and the hunter, how deeply rooted they are and who we are. And those images are all through history, and they even pop up now when people have almost completely forgotten about them, and they're popping up in like the backgrounds even. But we've never stopped being who we are.
yeah, I mean the Green Man shows up. He's carved into churches. He's drawn all the time. He's in frickin' Game of Thrones. He's a frozen pea mascot, more or less. They we never truly forgot these things, and they do rise from us consistently. You can see it in the music, you can see it in the art, you can see it in how we build, how we construct things, even our language. Um, like one example is, I've heard this. I'm not a linguist, but the whole was, is, will be, or should be. We don't have just one word per se for something that will definitively happen. It's more that it's likely. Like the three Norns are what has happened, what is happening, and what should happen. Nothing's written in stone there, and that can show to a certain extent even in our linguistics and how we speak and how we talk about certain things, or how we tend to meditate. There's, instead of saying I will go to the woods and meditate, we go to the woods and contemplate on these sorts of things, because the way we meditate tends to be more around ideas and letting our mind flow rather than trying to clear it.
Yeah, true. Just an example in modern day symbols and so on. Bluetooth, for example. You look at their bind rune, which a lot of people don't get. You see Berkano and Hagalaz and Gibo mixed in there. So it's going to be with us forever. There's no denying it, and there's no stopping it.
Not so long as our people breathe.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can even, just to like finish it off, in the United States, or just like countries that had that whole Wild West, or like not even like literally the Wild West, but just a period where there were no overarching power
That
structures.
the,
Where
the pioneering stages.
Yeah, if you
What
look
I
at
think that you're talking about.
yeah, if you look at what we were like when we did that, we are a lot closer to our nature. We may still be stuck looking at it through a Christian lens just because of available actions, but you look at the transcendentalists, you look at the Wild West culture, you look at pioneering culture, you look at just any time you remove these enforcing structures of the church or the government, we revert back to
Well,
who
yeah,
we
there's
are.
even writings from the church. There's even writings from the church about how they had to move their holy people and the churches out west as the people went out west, because they was going native, they was becoming heathen, it was becoming pagan. Basically, they was becoming who we really are, and the church just could not have that. So you remove those power structures, and we just return to who and what we are, because again, it's never really left.
Exactly. It's who we are. So you just remove what's the blockage. You remove the roadblock, people will go down the path that our blood calls to, that we will inevitably become.
Right. And the one thing I warn about is for us not to slip one noose to stick our head into another. That's the role, I think, of a lot of our artisans, is to remind us who we are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a nice circle back to where we started, which is the artisans and the bards and the people that create things that can be seen or heard. These are the people that give people that rallying cry that stir the folk soul and allow them to wake up even more. Because we will revert just naturally if we're not programmed to the frickin' gills or having these different groups forced upon us. We'll just revert. We might not have the names of gods or anything, but we will return to who we are just by removing these
Right.
blocks.
Well, and in the case of like, in the case of like the idols or the god poles or the carvings and the reliefs, it's also a visceral thing because it's not just seeing it; it's touching it, feeling it, smelling it. You can taste it in the air.
Yeah. And you have vocal versions of this. You have like High Lung, which pretty much everyone in heathen circles loves. And you've even stated that you've been able to get some people that are not heathen or even pro heathen, and you just have them listen to it without seeing who's singing it, and they basically say it's like the song of the divine.
Yeah, Galder is a very important thing, and that Galder will dig deep into your soul and resonate.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Before you wrap it up here, I'd just like to ask the folk to resonate on two runes and see what it means to them: Algis and Fehu. So if they're doing their meditations or their bloat, just resonate with those two runes. Picture them in your mind, see them with your mind's eye, and let them resonate to you, and see what that will open up in your psyche.
All right. Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
And
Well, and pretty much any of the runes, really. Just yeah. One that's everywhere, and I didn't even realize it, is the Tiwaz rune. It's everywhere.
yeah, it's an arrow. You go in a parking garage, there's like 30 of them.
Yeah, I love that story where you was really tired and you was in a parking garage and you saw the arrow on the floor and you was like, "Oh, a Tiwaz rune."
Yeah, and then I was
You
like,
know,
yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing a rune. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in a parking garage. It's an arrow.
but
But yeah,
really, you was seeing the Tiwaz runes. Even the runes are all around us.
Yeah,
yeah,
the reason why I brought up those two is if they can, those are the two that really resonated with me when I first started on this path many years ago, and those were the two runes that opened up the gateway for me. That was my experience on this path, so that's what really influenced me.
Right. And those are a fine two examples because they are powerful runes. I mean, really, they all are. They all kind of resonate in a way. So those are a fine place to start.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And my only thing about contemplating them is not getting overly academic and relying on strict definitions. More like the idea of what it is, and then roll with it from there. Because if you rely, scholars are good, and academics is good, but if you rely too much on that, subconsciously you're putting up barriers and fences
Yeah,
inside your mind.
yeah, expectations. Yeah, that's everybody's experience with them will be different. They'll resonate with people in different ways, and the meanings do change. Each rune has its own power and its own status, and for each of the folk it's going to resonate differently. That was just those were the two that got me started on the path. And if someone's in the warrior caste, it could be Hagalas and Tiwas. Who knows, right? But that was just the gateway for me.
Right, which is beautiful. And to add on to what you were saying about the way that they resonate with you, the way I would describe it to be a little bit more poetic and visceral would be like if we're swimming, we can both agree that the water is wet. So there is a definition. There's water, and the water is wet. But what it means, it might be warm to you, and it might be cold to me. So it's the same thing, but two different ways of understanding it.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't even have a clue on, I'd say 2/3 of the Aets, because they have not revealed themselves to me. A lot of the runes, yeah, I can look in the book, but they have not resonated yet, and they have not opened up their gifts to me. So as time goes on and I gain more wisdom, I'm sure their gifts will open up, and that will help my path in this life.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is just immersing yourself in who we are. Like just doing stuff, you'll get there, but it's speeding it up because we are surrounded by a lot of different things that don't necessarily resonate with us, just random stuff for consumerism or what have you. So it is a good idea to immerse yourself in culture, whether it be the runes or the tales or even just acting more in line with who we are, not just sitting on a couch potato watching the latest soap opera, eating, I don't know, ice cream or something, but actually going out and doing stuff or doing things you care about. That'll help. And
Well, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, I was gonna mention Norse Arts. You kind of have a Kickstarter going to help raise funds for your studio that you need to produce the more like the God Pole of Odin that we were doing that I showed early on.
Yeah, I do have a Kickstarter. It's a very ambitious goal because of the price of real estate and the laws for down payments, this, that, and the other. Uh, we're not in an ideal situation for my family and I. Whether it gets shared or it doesn't, like I said, it's a really ambitious goal. But there would be rewards to folk who do donate god poles and various pieces of art. The main thing is I don't want to see what I have started here go to waste. I don't want to end up stuck in a 3-bedroom apartment with my family because the property we're on here is in disarray and it's in receivership and so on. To me, that would be a heartache and a real loss if I couldn't produce the pieces for the folk. So I leave it into the hands of the gods, and whatever the destiny is will be. I just can't stress out about stuff. I'm making a conscious effort in an attempt to preserve what I'm doing. And by the will of the gods and the folk, if everything works out and transpires for us, so be it.
Yeah, and along with the Kickstarter, you do have a website and social media, which I will link at the end of the video. And I think people can order like completed works and such off of your site as well. Correct?
Yeah, the storefront's not set up on the website, but Twitter is the place where I post my latest pieces, and my kindred Nine Gates Odinic Fellowship in Idaho. They're my U.S. distributors for all my pieces down south.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we need to, if able, to support our artists by purchasing their works. But if you can't afford to do that, then I would say that that's very understandable. And if you want an idol, for instance, it's better to carve your own than to purchase mass-produced stuff. If you can get something from a folkish artist and you can't carve for crap, then do that rather than than mass produced. Avoid the mass produced Chinese stamp out crap. It's better to have something made by one of the folk by far.
Exactly.
And if the folk aren't financially stable and stuff, and they do come by where we're selling our pieces, and they only have a certain amount of money, 9 times out of 10, if I see that spark within them, I will make it available to them somehow. Not free, but definitely lower the price on the pieces. I will take a loss in my hours put into it to make sure that that particular folk person can have that piece, and they will go home with it.
Anything worth having requires sacrifice.
I will sacrifice for the folk, and definitely try and make sure they go home with that piece.
Yeah. I've done similar things where the person, I knew they couldn't afford it. So then, and this seems to be particularly among folkish people, and sometimes we cut our throats right to the bone to help each other out. We got to try making sure that our artists don't cut their own throat to the bone. But I've taken labor in exchange. I always require something because nothing should be free.
Yeah, exactly. And if the time is right at that particular moment, and I do get that message from the high one or whoever is resonating with me at the time, so be it. And if that doesn't resonate with me, there's nothing I can do about it. So I live my life very esoterically.
Sometimes you just got to turn people away just because of the timing.
The timing and the gut instinct, the vibe you get off that person. Every screw up in life I've had, it's because I never trusted my gut. So that's my number one rule, is to live by my gut. No offense to anybody if they're offended by it, or oh, I'm a good guy, give me a chance. If my gut tells me no, then it tells me no.
Yeah, I don't care if I offend people myself.
It's usually best not to care. It's usually just an excuse so that you don't listen to your instincts on things like that.
Right. Definitely listen to your instinct. Even if it's about me, if I show up and I'm like, hey, I'd really like this thing, I can't afford this thing, I'll make you a trade, and you're like, oh yeah, I just don't.
Yeah.
Feeling it. Wait, by all means, deny me. We have our instincts for a reason more than we have. We should listen to them.
Yeah, we have to be very cautious.
And the same goes in the other direction too.
That's right. Yeah, we all have to be cautious and trust our gut. It's a crazy world we live in, but there's always hope that we're going to overcome all our obstacles and have a clear path in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, and I've noticed. I was going to say I've noticed that a lot of what I talk about, I don't really bring up anything new to anybody. It's more like I'm reminding them of things that they already knew and was just not paying attention to.
Yeah. And just one thing that popped up, this isn't in the YouTube chat, but in our group, someone's watching the stream and he's posting in the chat in our group, and he says, "You've inspired me to work harder and to never entertain self-doubt, Norse Arts." So you are inspiring other artists as well.
Well, thank you for that. Whoever that folk member is, I really appreciate that, as I am inspired by other artists and our bards and various kindreds all around continental North America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one last question. This is actually one that I'm just curious about, and I'm guessing some people that watch this might be wondering, do you do, like, if someone ordered, say, a Tiwaz or Thor, Thunar, or what have you, God pull, or do you specifically work off of the divine inspiration typically?
I can do custom work, but when it comes to the more esoteric pieces like the god poles, uh, those have to resonate within the sacred being and the power that is granted to me to produce that piece. If I'm doing a Viking shield or something, like one of those doors or a stave, that's a completely different setup, completely different way of doing the art. But the idols, they're a sacred, they're a holy piece, and I mean, I do Odin, I do Balder, Heimdall, Thor, the major gods tier. So those idols are produced on a regular basis.
All right. Awesome. And I will put the social media and the Norse Arts website and your Kickstarter as well in the description after the video's over, and people can check you out.
Hail to you. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor being with you guys, and we're definitely going to stay in touch through Discord and so on.
Yeah, and it was wonderful being able to talk to you and pick you and Arca's brain. Not much of an artist myself, so it's fantastic to get to talk to people like the two of you.
But people like you and Celtic God and Carolyn and Dawn and all the people who are standing up and being vocal, you guys are our gateway for recognition and having the platform to express ourselves. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for everything you do, man. Your art is fantastic, and I'm very happy to have been able to find out about it. All right, and I guess that'll finish up. Celtic Guide, you got anything left to finish up? Any inspiring words of wisdom?
Yeah, I'm going to be all Celtic God about it. Everybody go out there and be fucking great.
We are great. We just got to actually go do stuff, and it'll happen. If you aren't, yeah, just go be awesome. Do stuff. Run around in the rain. Go fight a bear. But if you do fight a bear, don't blame me. That is clearly mildly joking. I don't recommend fighting a bear. But if you do, that'd be awesome. Just I recommend against it.
Just get
You
pictures.
know, yeah, just halfway through, both of you will calm down. You'll just go for a beer, and you'll be best friends afterwards. You and the bear, like frickin' Grizzly Adams.
Or you could just fight a guy named Bjorn.
Yeah.
That's probably safer.
Probably safer, and probably will take the beer a little bit easier.
Yes.
So yeah.
All right. Well,
really
I'm
great.
out.
Yeah.
You guys take it easy.
Yeah. All right. And thank you again, Norse Arts, for coming on. You have a lovely day, and I'll have everything posted below. Hail the
Thank
gods,
you.
hail the folk. All right. Bye, guys.